Yo, 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 what's going on, party people? TonyFlygon here, bringing you another PokeMoshPit Wi-Fi battle. Today, I'm bringing you a very interesting Ubers match against my good friend kingzize92. Looking at his team, he's using a pretty generic Sun team, pretty much the standard Sun team. Has always has Groudon, Fortress, Reshiram, and Palkia. Those are pretty much a given on most offensively based stall teams. He also has a Ho-Oh, which could be replaced by a Blaziken, and he has a Giratina O, who could be replaced by pretty much any other ghost type. As long as you have a spin blocker on your team, you have pretty much this generic Sun team. I'm using a Thunderwave based Rain team. I say that because I have two Thunder Wavers on my team and a couple of pokes that really abuse it. Um, my Thunder Wavers are Kyogre and Ferrothorn. Not really obvious on Kyogre. It's pretty common on Ferrothorn though. Ferrothorn is also my Spiker, where I set up rocks with my Dialga. It's a defensive Dialga, although it still has a modest nature, so it definitely packs a punch. It's Extreme Killer Arceus, meaning it's a normal type Arceus with Swords Dance Extreme Speed to kill late game. And this Shaman is especially dangerous with the Thunder Wave support, because it's modest natured with a choice specs. And imagine with a half paralyzed team of your opponents locking yourself into Air Slash, that's gonna be a party. So that's pretty much my team right there. I do like to keep up the hazards though, because it's very preserving for my Shaman's offensive capabilities, and it also helps my Arceus netting some very valuable kills at +2. So I have a spin blocker in the form of Giratina. Giratina is a very sturdy defensive Pokemon. It's the bulkiest Pokemon in the game overall, looking at both defenses, and it's so bulky it will not die ever. Although in this match you'll see it actually will. But yes, without further ado, let's go into this match. Alright, so anticipating his Groudon lead, I'm gonna go into my Shaman Skyform as a lead, immediately scaring him out, preventing him from setting up Stealth Rocks, and not showing that my Kyogre is defensive, because my Kyogre will probably be slower than his Groudon, and I did not want to reveal this fact yet, because I don't have Life Orb or leftovers. I could easily bluff a choice item. So I decided to lead with this thing, my Shaman. I'm thinking he's gonna switch to his Ho-Oh, which is generally a very good switch into Shaman, so I make a double switch. And, well, not really double switch. I switch, predicting his switch, go into my Giratina, who can pretty much shrug off any of Ho-Oh's hits, and then go for a phasing move on the switch. However, I anticipate his Fortress switch, so I go in, well, maybe not Fortress per se, but Fortress was an obvious switch. You may think, why would you bring in Fortress on a Ghost type? Because it pretty much blocks the spin anyway. Well, Fortress can easily set up hazards on Giratina. So I switched to my Kyogre, not only getting the weather up, but forcing the Fortress out for taking major damage from a Water type attack. He switches into Palkia, which is generally a very good switch into Kyogre. But I have the Thunder Wave, as I mentioned before. This is a Thunder Wave based team. I go for Thunder after Thunder Waving it, thinking he would think I would abuse the fact he's paralyzed, pretty much crippled, so I could go into my Ferrothorn and set up hazards all over him. So I decide he'd predict that, go for either Aura Sphere or Fire Blast on my switch, so I stay in and Thunder. And luckily for him, he gets paralyzed, not revealing the fact, putting me in a mind game, because he did lock himself into Fire Blast. Hoping I would either scare him out, thinking he would go for Thunder, or something else. He stays in, but I kind of call his bluff, go for another Thunder, as he reveals he is locked into Fire Blast, and I can then take out his Palkia. Now, Groudon comes in, brings back up... Wow, that was very horrible. He brings back up the Sun. He then switches to Fortress, who can take on my bulky Kyogre when the Sun is up and set up hazards all over me. Not wanting this, I'm gonna switch to my Dialga, but he makes a very good play and makes a double switch into his Reshiram, and pretty much it's Reshiram in the Sun, and this pretty much means something is gonna die. It is that ridiculous. Its dual stab is unresisted. Its base power special attacks are base 140 with his Draco Meteor and base 130 in the Sun as well, Blue Flare. I decided to fodder my Ferrothorn, thinking I would not have many chances to set up my hazards on his team anyway. And I needed a free switch into my Kyogre. I couldn't risk him going for Draco Meteor, killing my Kyogre, and winning the Weather War. Not killing immediately, but do a ton of damage. I don't have rest, so that's gonna be a problem. I bring in Kyogre, I back up the Rain, I go for Scald, and that's gonna hurt the Fortress a lot. In fact, it's gonna almost kill it, especially defensive Fortress does have a lot of bulk. I do have max special attack on this Kyogre, but in the end, Fortress with max special defense is able to tank this hit. Scald is not that powerful, but I can easily 2-hit KO it, so that's no problem. He decided to fodder out Fortress so he can safely bring in Groudon, bring back up the weather, and set up Stealth Rock. Here I think he was going to abuse the fact of having the sun up and easily try to wall my Kyogre, so he switch out. So I go for Thunder Wave, but he made a good prediction by staying in, going for Stealth Rock. But generally he thinks I'm gonna switch up moves now. I again go for Thunder Wave, and now I nail the Ho-Oh on the switch, which is great. So Ho-Oh's paralyzed, and here I make kind of a mistake by going for the obvious move. I again switch to my Giratina to try and wall the Ho-Oh, which I will, but he again makes a great prediction and makes another double switch and again brings in his Reshiram, and I again need to figure out what to do. You may think, why don't you have a better Reshiram counter? Well, try to do so. I could bring Chansey or Blissey. That's one of the few things that could take one of its attacks. Arceus Rock in Sandstorm, but it could carry Focus Blast, so Tyranitar is not really a viable counter as well. So yeah, Ho-Oh is paralyzed, meaning it's not as threatening as it could be, so I decided to stay in, not thinking he would I need the Giratina to wall it. Plus, I don't have to spin block because Fortress is gone thanks to the Scalds of my Kyogre. Now, he does go for Draco Meteor, so he didn't predict my switch and go for Blue Flare. So far, he's been picking out his moves correctly. It's probably choice specs, by the way. It's definitely choice specs. Best set on Reshiram. Not sure if I mentioned that before. But at -2, I can easily take a hit with my bulky. With my bulky Dialga, but he switches into Ho-Oh, anticipating my Stealth Rocks, and he wanted to get it in before he would get raped by it, so that's a good play. I then bring in my Kyogre, knowing I can take a single hit from this Ho-Oh, and he might go for Sacred Fire instead of Brave Bird, which he does, which is good. He does get the burn here, but I have the Lumberry, so that's not really a problem. You may think, why do I have Lumberry? Lumberry is very good against Darkrai lead, since I'm modest-natured with max special attack. I can bring it down to its sash, or kill it if it doesn't have one. Try and get the burn on his sash and stay awake, thanks to Lumberry, if he Dark Voids. But he decides to not switch out his Ho-Oh here, try and get some damage in on me, and oh wait, no, not try and get damage on me. I kill it because he wanted to get a free switch into his Groudon, and if he'd switch out, he'd be a half-health Ho-Oh paralyzed, so it's kind of crippled. It's not really worth preserving, I guess. So he decides to keep it in, again bring in Groudon to win the Weather War. I just go for Ice Beam, play it very aggressively, take out the Groudon. I do get a crit, but in the end you'll see it doesn't end up mattering. Let's move on though. He brings in Reshiram, trying to take out my Kyogre with a Choice Specs Draco Meteor. Well, that is gonna work because that is way too powerful. In the end, should have preserved my Kyogre to win the Weather War because now the sun is up. But again, I can take a hit from this Reshiram because he is at -2, but you'll see how powerful Reshiram really is because I, quite frankly, don't take it that well, and I do have a lot of special defense investment at max HP. It still brings me down around half, and that's a -2 Draco Meteor. Reshiram is so powerful, but I am able to take it out with a Dragon Pulse right here, so that's the Reshiram down for the count. Now I need to carefully pick my moves, because it's now going to be a delicate situation and I can't screw this up. He brings in his Giratina O, hasn't shown that all match, but here it comes, and I'm gonna fodder out my Dialga, so I can safely switch in my next Pokemon, which you'll see in a second. Giratina is probably a mix set with Draco Meteor Outrage or Draco Meteor Dragon Tail, Hidden Power Fire, and Shadow Sneak. So I decided to bring in my Arceus, who can easily take well, not easily, but it can take one Outrage because I have HP investment, and it's not a speedy variant, it's a bulky variant. I did not need the speedy variant as much because I have a Thunder Wave based team. So I know I can take at least one, or I should be able to take at least one Outrage, just in case it would have been close. I decided to go for Sword Stance instead of 2 Shadow Claws in case of Life Orb damage killing me. You may think it's a risky move, but it's actually a solid choice. And he could have gotten a crit, but I still had my Choice Spec Shaman, and he was locked into Outrage, so I could 2-hit KO with Air Slash, hoping to get a flinch, or go for HP Ice and do a ton of damage. It's really whichever you prefer. But he didn't crit me, so I could go for a Swords Dance, go for Shadow Claw, take out his Arceus, not his Arceus, his Giratina, and that's gonna be a good game. I hope you all enjoyed. Check out my channel if you did. My opponent doesn't upload, so it's not really worth checking him out. He's a good battler though, so I guess you could challenge him or something. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you all enjoy your day. Goodbye, PokeMoshPit. Peace.